Hi, this is Rob Abelo from Where Music's Going. You're listening to the Your Morning Coffee podcast with my friends Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart. Weekly music news for the new music business.
From Chris Castle, big music myth number 1. Streamers are in the music business.
From Ultimate Guitar, Avenged Sevenfold's M Shadows unmasks the truth behind dynamic ticket pricing. He says artists love to hide behind Live Nation and Ticketmaster and go, oh, we had no clue.
And from CNN, yes, a TikTok ban is closer than ever. No, your app won't just disappear. Well, we have so much to talk about, Jay. So much to talk about. We are glad you're here. It's episode 231, and we're going to start the show right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand!
Your morning coffee is on the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Well, Jay, good to see you, my friend, on a Saturday for us.
Yes, good to see you too. I'm thankful that both of us are safe from these LA fires. We'll get into that in a second. I want to give a shout out to Rob Abelo, who gave us that cool show intro. We did a little special episode this week.
We did with Rob, and it's always nice to check in with him. It's someone we really admire and have a lot of respect for, and it's always good to hear him chatting.
Yeah,
he's
that was
a groovy dude and very bright.
That was so good. Rob, if you don't know, has a really cool blog newsletter called Where Music's Going, and it's very insightful. And we've talked to him on the podcast before, and just have a great deal of admiration for Rob and what he's doing. And a week or so ago, we talked about an article that he wrote called The 39 Biggest Problems in Music. And he had done sort of a poll and had, I think, 35,000 respondents about what are those 39 biggest problems in music. And so we talk about that in this special episode. So when you get a chance, it should be in your feed. Check out our special bonus episode with Rob Abelo. Those 39 biggest problems in music, we talked about the top 10, and I'll kick it off with the first 5. Number 1, streaming or Spotify was sort of the number 1 problem people said was in the music industry. Number 2 was music has been devalued. Number 3, artists don't know who their fans are, and we dig into that. Number 4, oversaturation of music, just too much noise. And then number 5, lack of real artist development and investment.
Right. Number 6 is the industry prioritizing numbers over artistry. Number 7, everyone chasing virality instead of real growth. Number 8, AI training on copyrighted material without permission or compensation, for sure. Number 9, payment systems for AI-generated derivative works. And number 10, lack of transparency, I should say, royalty black boxes. So yeah, the list is fantastic and a lot of important things. And by the way, some of these have been talked about as a problem in music going back decades. So a lot of the stuff is not new.
Yeah, what's old is new again. So check out that bonus episode. We had one other bonus episode that dropped through the holiday break. And that was a conversation with Jesse Kirschbaum. We broke broke down this 2024 trend report that his agency, it's called New Agency, NUE. Jesse's agency teamed up with Adweek, and they produced this 2024 trend report. And Jesse and I break that thing down. So check out that bonus episode too.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Of course, given everything that's going on here in Los Angeles wildfire relief organizations providing assistance for music industry workers. This was a piece in Billboard. Important to note, it is not behind a paywall. A list of organizations and entities offering relief for musicians and music industry professionals affected by the hugely destructive Los Angeles blazes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you and I have had friends who have lost their homes. It's just been apocalyptic. It's just, I can't even put words. It's just so destructive. Just thousands and thousands of homes and businesses destroyed. So check out that piece in Billboard. There are lots of great people offering relief. Coming up this week, Luminate is going to have their year-end report drop, and they do a webinar that's free for everyone on Wednesday, so don't miss that. And Mike and I are going to interview Jamie Markinet from Luminate, and we've been doing that fairly regularly for a while, and it's always super insightful. We're going to break that report down, and so that'll be a special episode coming soon.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of coming soon, Liz Pelly has agreed to come on the podcast to discuss her wonderful, wonderful new book, Mood Machine, The Rise of Spotify and the Costs of the Perfect Playlist. That book is out now, and you and I were talking about that before we hit record, and I can hardly wait to dig into it because it is fascinating, and
it really is. And it's in the press a lot this last week or two. Everybody's talking about it. There was a piece in Rolling Stone, and the headline was, "It's about how power works." Author Liz Pelly on her new Spotify book, Mood Machine, The Rise of Spotify and the Cost of the Perfect Playlist. And again, that was from Rolling Stone. And they wrote, she wrote, "Writing the book has made me realize that this isn't a debate over what the most ethical streaming service is," she said. "It's not what is the cool new app someone can download as an alternative to Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music. The broader question is, how do we contract corporate power in music and culture? How do we minimize the influence of corporations in our lives?"
Jay, how about a 10th anniversary? As the Beatles would say, they say it's your birthday. Well, it's my birthday too. Yeah, it's the 10th anniversary of the Your Morning Coffee newsletter. Happy 10th anniversary also to our friends at Music Business Worldwide. Simply the best. Tim Ingham, you are a rock star. And of course, we appreciate your friendship, your team. And yes, we're talking to you, Murray Stassen, and your dedication to real music journalism. Keep up the great work. And Jay, congrats to you on the newsletter. Man, dude, that has
10 years.
Really taken off. I can't believe it's been 10 years. But I remember getting that first email. Yeah. And just a wonderful job you do. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. It's gone by in a blink of an eye. And it's just been such a joy doing that newsletter and all the things that we've learned, and we've all the great people we've met, and it wouldn't have happened without it. So I'm just honored. This past week, I started listening to a new podcast, and it's super interesting. The MLC, Mechanical Licensing Collective, one of our sponsors, they launched a new podcast really to educate and empower music creators, like songwriters. So this new podcast, it's called Taking Care of Your Music Business, by the MLC. Like in this podcast, they dive deep into the heart of the music industry, exploring how to get paid as a creative, making sure that you're receiving all the royalties that you deserve. They'll also dive into things like building a sustainable career, sharing strategies and best practices that creators can use to achieve long-term success. And I haven't gotten through all of them. I think they have maybe, 8 episodes that are already up. And I'll just read you sort of the headline topics on some of these podcasts. One is called Beyond the Writer's Room. One is called Every Cent Counts. One is Empowering Creators. It's a lot about songwriting. It's a lot about the music business, mentorship, music rights. Check it out. It's called Taking Care of Your Music Business, a new podcast by the Mechanical Licensing Collective.
A wonderful, wonderful resource for sure. Well, Jay, Record Store Day 2025, one of our favorite events of any given year, will be on April 12th of this year. What began as a grassroots effort to celebrate independent record stores has truly grown into a global phenomenon, uniting music lovers, artists, labels, and stores.
Yeah, the story of Record Store Day began back in 2007 when a group of independent record stores wanted a way to highlight their unique culture. They were inspired by the success of events like Free Comic Book Day, and they envisioned a similar celebration for music. And man, it is just grown, and it's now worldwide.
Well, Jay, the first official Record Store Day was held, if you can believe it, way back on April 19th of 2008 with the legendary Metallica kicking off the inaugural event up at Rasputin Music in San Francisco. Since then, Record Store Day has grown exponentially, celebrated annually on a Saturday in April and often accompanied by a second event, that's Record Store Day Black Friday, that drops in November.
Yeah, we never miss it. So looking forward to seeing what those titles are for Record Store Day. And I reached out to the team there, and as we get a little bit closer and they get some of their lists together of what they've got, they're going to come on and we'll talk about it. There was this new, it's not a new publication, but new to me, called Coolest Gadgets. And there was an article that caught my eye when one of my Google alerts. And the headline was Apple Music, Statistics by Demographics, Revenue, Users, and Facts. And you and I both love lists, and we love facts and figures. So let's run down a couple of those Apple Music stats that they have. Apple Music has over 93 million subscribers as of 2024, and that's up 88 million from 2022. The platform generated $9.2 billion US in revenue in 2023. And that contributes about 6.4% to Apple's total services revenue. The next one was Apple Music holds a almost 31% market share in the U.S. Music streaming market, ranking second only after Spotify, which has 36%. So it's much closer than people might even imagine. And Apple Music is available in 167 countries. Apple Music offers a diverse catalog of over 100 million songs and 30,000 playlists.
Yeah, approximately 56% of users are female, 44% male. The service is popular across various age groups with a significant portion of users aged 25 to 34. On average, Apple Music pays artists about a tenth of a penny per stream, which is higher than many competitors. The platform offers lossless and spatial audio features, enhancing the listening experience with high-quality sound. In 2024, Apple Music introduced a 24-hour music video channel and relaunched Beats One Radio as Apple Music One, expanding its content offerings. And I was kind of surprised with some of those numbers, to be honest. I didn't realize they were that close to Spotify here in the States.
Yeah, and you and I are big fans of Apple Music, and we love Dolby Atmos, and we've had the pleasure of taking the Apple Music team to a nice recording studio in your hometown of Ojai, which was just the highlight of my year, listening to some of those Dolby Atmos mixes, right?
Mm-hmm. On a really wonderful system. It sounded
Special
fantastic.
shout out to Greg Penny.
Yes,
So
indeed.
let's thank our sponsors. First up, the Mechanical Licensing Collective. Don't forget that new podcast. The MLC is a nonprofit organization, and it's making a big difference for songwriters, music publishers, and other rights holders by really transforming how they receive mechanical streaming royalties from services like Spotify, Apple Music in the United States. Every month, the MLC collects the streaming data and royalties from those platforms. It matches the money to the creator who has earned it, and then they pay them or their publishers and admin partners the royalties that they're due. To date, the MLC has already distributed over $2.5 billion in total royalties and has nearly 50,000 members worldwide. If you're a songwriter, composer, or lyricist with music streaming or publisher or admin, You need to become a member of the MLC to ensure that you're not leaving any money on the table. Best of all, membership is completely free, and the MLC pays out 100% of the royalties that it takes in. Visit themlc.com to learn more.
Indeed. We are also sponsored by Soundtrack, music for business. The good news is that 33% of consumers discover new music they hear played in businesses like restaurants, retail establishments, bars, and hotels. The bad news is that over 70% of U.S. small and mid-sized businesses are misusing music, resulting in a loss to music creators, rights holders, and the music industry to the tune of over $1.3 billion per year in the U.S. alone. Soundtrack is the leading music streaming service for business, providing music to more than 80,000 businesses globally. They do a wonderful job over there at Soundtrack.
Yeah.
If you want to get more information, go over to soundtrack.app/artist-guide.
Yeah, and we're sponsored by our friends over at Music.ai. Music.ai is a trailblazing AI-powered music and audio platform offering an expansive suite of over 50 stackable AI audio solutions. You want to change the tempo or pitch of your song, adjust instruments or vocals, mute background noise. Music.ai makes all of that super easy. Embraced by record labels, agencies, tech firms, and developers, Music.ai is synonymous with audio innovation. With over 45 million users, their tools process over 2 million minutes of audio every day. They can process yours. Visit Music.ai to get started.
And by the way, I get to hang out every week with my good friend Jay Gilbert. It is always a pleasure. It is always an honor to hang out with him. And by the way, as I mentioned, it's his 10-year anniversary of the newsletter. He is a music industry consultant. And as we said, he's the curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter and a former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and the Warner Music Group.
Yeah, and I get to do this show, not only the show, but our kind of pregame every single week with my good friend Mike Etchart, longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, and Universal Music. And it's just so much fun each week because you never know what's going to be in the news and, you know, what releases are coming out, what documentaries, what books. You and I are talking about some really cool books that we're digging into. I'm really excited to get through Mood Machine by Liz Pelly. I'm about halfway through it. And you know, what's fun about it is it talks about people that you and I talk to pretty regularly, you know, like Will Page, like Glenn McDonald, who we've talked to a few times. And there are many other players in this space that you and I have had the pleasure of talking to. But again, Mood Machine by Liz Pelly, we'll be talking about that a lot more in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. It is one to get. So, Jay, let's jump into our stories. The first one is from our friend Chris Castle. It's saying, big music myth number one, streamers are in the music business. Musicians, advocate, and attorney Chris Castle builds on the work of Liz Pelly's new Spotify expose to uncloak what he sees as the myths perpetrated by the corporate music machine. In part 1 of 5, Castle explores the narrative that streamers are actually in the music business.
We are big fans of Chris Castle. We consider him a friend.
Understatement.
And you know, if you don't know, he runs music technology policy, and you know, he's involved in a lot of these things. And whenever we want clarification or guidance on what is going on with this stuff, we reach out to Chris. You know, this particular installment, you mentioned this was part 1 of 5. It explores how, you know, streamers profit from fans while sidelining the artists and songwriters who really fuel their platforms. There are 5 key assumptions that support the streamer narrative, and we'll look at them each in turn. Today, we'll assess assumption number 1. Streamers are not in the music business, but they want you to believe the opposite.
Right. So assumption number 1, which is, as we said, is streamers are in the music business. Streamers like Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube are not in the music business, Chris goes on to say. They are in the data business. Why? So they can monetize your fans that you drive to them. These companies make extensive use of algorithms and artificial intelligence in their business, especially to sell targeted advertising. This has a direct impact on your ability to compete compete with enterprise playlists and fake tracks, or what you might call decoy footprints, as identified by Liz Pelly's exceptional journalism in that new book we were just talking about. And it's on sale now, by the way.
Signaling, while Spotify artificially capped its subscription rates for over 10 years in order to convince Wall Street of its growth story, the company definitely did not cap its advertising rates, which are based on an auction model like YouTube. So like YouTube, Spotify collects emotional data, analyzing a user social media post, for example, demographics, age, gender, location, geofencing, behavioral data, listening habits, interests, and contextual data, serving ads in relevant moments like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right. He says they also use geofencing to target users by regions, cities, postal codes, and even designated market areas, the DMAs. Chris says, my bet is that they can tell if you're looking at men's suits in ML Liddy's, which is in San Angelo or Fort Worth. He said, sometimes they break the law. Why the snooping? They do this to monetize your fans. Sometimes they break the law, such as Spotify's $5.5 million fine by Swedish authorities for violating Europe's data protection laws.
Yeah, he goes on to say that they'll also tell you that streamers are all up in introducing fans to new music, or what they call discovery. The truth is that they could just as easily be introducing you to a brand of spam. Discovery is just a data application for the thousands of employees that these companies, who form this algocracy, who make far more money on average than any songwriter or musician does on average. As Maria Schneider anointed the algocracy in her eponymous Pulitzer Prize finalist album, these are the data lords. And I gather from Liz Pelly's book that it's starting to look like Discovery is just another form of payola behind the scene.
It also must be said that these algocrats tend to run together, which makes any bright line between the companies harder to define. For example, Spotify has phased out owning data centers and migrated its extensive data operations to the Google Cloud platform, which means Spotify is arguably entirely dependent on Google for a significant part of its data business. Yes, the dominant music streaming platform Spotify collaborates with the adjudicated monopolist Google for its data monetization operations. Not to mention the Meta Pixel class action controversy. It's believed that Spotify may have installed a tracking tool on its website called the Meta Pixel that can be used to gather data about website visitors and share it with Meta. Specifically, attorneys suspect that Spotify may have used the Meta Pixel to track which videos its users have watched on Spotify.com and send that information to Meta along with each person's Facebook ID.
Yeah, he ends the piece by saying that, and remember, Spotify doesn't allow AI training on the music and metadata on its platform, right? That's the good news. So there's another piece in Hypebot this week. The headline was Chris Castle, Trends Driving the Music Business in 2025. So don't miss that one. But two very insightful pieces from our friend Chris Castle this week.
Yeah, just scary stuff. Boy, really interesting.
Yeah.
Our next story, Jay, it's from Ultimate Guitar. Avenged Sevenfold's M Shadows unmasks truth behind dynamic ticket pricing. Artists love to hide behind Live Nation and Ticketmaster and go, oh, we had no clue, he says.
Yeah, we've talked about this. Avenged Sevenfold's M Shadows reflected on some of the issues that stem from quote-unquote dynamic pricing, arguing that ticket vendors only apply the model with the artist's consent.
Right. So fans have grown increasingly critical of the dynamic pricing as the practice, theoretically based on the free market rules of supply and demand, saw ticket prices skyrocket well beyond what the average fan was willing or even able to pay. One of the more recent examples involved the long-awaited Oasis reunion shows, which even caught the attention of the UK government. The Gallagher brothers subsequently claimed they weren't aware the model had been applied, stating that Oasis artist leaves decisions on ticketing and pricing entirely to their promoters and management.
Right. In a new interview with Bradley Hall, Avenged Sevenfold's M. Shadows, that's her lead singer, said that Ticketmaster only applies the dynamic pricing model with artist consent. The subject arose as a singer explained how expensive it is to get a tour going nowadays, and which also influences ticket prices. He said the following, and this was transcribed by Ultimate Guitar.
Right. So he said, people want to ignore that we live in a capitalist society where there's two things going on. Artists want to be compensated for whatever the fair market value is for their work. If there's 2,000 seats in a venue, the artist could be really nice, charge $50 and not make any money, or go do it because they just want to do it. And then a reseller could sell a few hundred of those tickets for up to $1,000 because there's fans that will pay that.
Right. Now, the reason dynamic pricing even ever got introduced is because the artist and the management said, why is the reseller making 10 times more than the artist on stage? There's this many tickets that will sell for this much money. Why aren't we charging that much? And so what Ticketmaster did is they created a tool that allows artists to opt into this dynamic pricing.
Right. He also added, it's very clear Ticketmaster created a tool to allow artists to opt into this. It's not Ticketmaster just taking all the top end. It's the artists. And artists love to hide behind Live Nation and Ticketmaster and go, oh, we had no clue. Can't believe it.
Right. M. Shadow says, if you ask most people, if someone's buying a ticket for $1,000, do you want it going to the reseller or the artist? Most people will say we want it going to the artist. But they also don't want the ticket to be that highly priced. And then they also don't want you to, take away their ability to resell that ticket because that's very un-American.
Right. So summing up the situation with dynamic pricing, Shadows argue that most fans would want to see their favorite artist rewarded proportionately to the levels of demand for their art. At the same time, he admits that the way it is being done leaves a bad taste in many people's mouths.
He says, quote, you have all these little arguments and there's macro and micro arguments about all of it. And that's really what's happening. So at the end of the day, ticket prices go up and somebody in the queue sees, well, there's too many people in there, and they raise the prices until people stop buying. And that is what the music industry calls fair market value.
Right. He said, now, I don't think people would disagree with the premise. They just don't like when it's happening to them. And so that's the situation we're in. And I'm not here to make a statement on whether they should be mad or not. It's just that's what's really happening. And if people can afford it, the artist would rather see that upside than the guy that bought 20 front row tickets and now he's selling them to all your biggest fans.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past about how there are fees in these tickets and, what are they going for? And that many of them the artist participates in, but it's not broadcast that that's what's going on. So this was a really interesting piece, and people were talking about it. Before we go into our last story, let's thank our remaining sponsors.
Indeed, we are sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. Built by musicians for musicians, Bandzoogle is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to build a stunning website and online store for your music in minutes. All the features you need are already built in, including dozens of fully customizable templates, tools to sell your music and merch commission-free crowdfunding and fan subscription features, mailing lists, tools to grow your fan list, integrations with Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube, Bands in Town, and more, so you can easily add content from your other online profiles, plus live support from their musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Website plans start at just $8.29 a month, which includes hosting and your own free custom domain name. Your Morning Coffee podcast listeners can jump over to bandzoogle.com to try it free for 30 days and use the promo code Morning Coffee, that's all one word, to get 15% off the first year of any subscription. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code Morning Coffee.
Yeah, we are also sponsored by Hypebot since 2004. Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. Edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Alana Bonilla. Hypebot and sister blog Music Think Tank are published by live music discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
Oh yeah, Bands in Town, over 90 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It's the #1 artist service platform connecting over 650,000 artists with their superfans. Managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates across all platforms. Big thanks to everyone who helps us put the show on.
We appreciate it.
Couldn't do without it.
Nope.
Indeed. So our last story, Jay, this week is from CNN. Yes, a TikTok ban is closer than ever. No, your app won't just disappear. The Supreme Court on Friday heard oral arguments over the law that could ban TikTok in the U.S. The law, signed by President Joe Biden in April, requires TikTok to be sold off from its China-based parent company ByteDance or face a U.S. ban.
Yeah, according to CNN, the hearing didn't go so well for TikTok, making it more likely than ever that the ban will go into effect starting January 19th. Most of the justices appeared likely to uphold the law, lobbing tough questions at lawyers for TikTok and its users about relevance of their arguments and that the law violates the First Amendment.
Right. There are lots of lingering questions about how the ban would work in practice because there's no precedent for the U.S. government blocking a major social media platform. And much of how the government plans to enforce it remains unclear.
Yeah, even TikTok attorney Noel Francisco seemed uncertain about how exactly a ban would go down. He said that on January 19th, as I understand it, we shut down. But some things are clear, including the fact that TikTok won't suddenly just disappear from existing users' phones. Here's what we know about how a ban would work.
Right. So it is widely expected that the U.S. government will force App Store operators like Google and Apple to remove TikTok from their platforms. The government could also force American internet service providers to block TikTok, making it impossible to access the web version of the platform. But that approach would be complicated, Galprin said, because there are so many more ISPs than app stores.
Right. Galprin went on to say that many other countries have blocked social media apps and websites in the past using a variety of different methods with a wide range of results and levels of effectiveness. In Turkey, for example, a lot of social media sites have been blocked for years. And having a VPN that gets around that censorship is something that nearly every person in Turkey does.
Right. Even if the ban does go into effect, it's not necessarily permanent. ByteDance would still have the option to sell the platform to a non-Chinese owner to restore access for American users. Well, and we're starting to see in the news a bunch of people kind of lining up to maybe make offers on TikTok. So that date is fast approaching. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to talk about next week on what's going down.
Yes, sir.
All right, and it's got time to wrap up the show. So if you do enjoy the show, please tell one friend. Jay and I would certainly appreciate it. Big thanks to our good friends and sponsors, the MLC, Soundtrack, Bandzoogle, Music.ai, Hypebot, and Bands in Town. Boy, we certainly appreciate their participation and help. Could not do it without them. And so on behalf of my good friend Jay Gilbert, I'm Mike Etchart, and I say thanks for listening. We'll be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.